Good evening. I'm Kelda Yoon. It started with a family trip downtown to celebrate Canada Day and ended with him being accused of killing a Toronto police officer. Today, Umar Zamir took the stand to testify in his own defense. The 34-year-old father of two pleading not guilty to first-degree murder in the death of Detective Constable Jeffrey Northrup. Greg Ross is covering the trial and has more on Zamir's testimony.
This was definitely a pivotal day in this trial. There's no doubt about it, because we got to hear from Umar Zamir in his own defense. It's not often in a murder trial we see a defendant come to the stand in his own defense, but the defense calling him as a witness today. We got to hear about him. We got to hear his voice for the first time today. He talked a little bit about his background, talked about the fact that he grew up in Pakistan. He talked about moving to Malaysia in 2015, where he met his wife, who we heard testify in this trial, Ada Sheikh. She was a classmate of his sister. They moved to Canada together in 2019. He said he came here for a better life. And this testimony went on right up into the day that all of this happened, back on July 1st and July 2nd of 2021. He talked about coming here on Canada Day that evening with his wife and their then 2-year-old son. His wife at the time was 8 months pregnant, came here to see if there was going to be any Canada Day celebration. They walked around the downtown area, and of course we got right up to that moment where he interacted with these police officers, including Jeffrey Northrup, who later on just after midnight on July 2nd died because of this incident. We didn't get to that incident just yet, but we did get to see Umar Zamir testify in front of this jury, and we're going to bring in a criminal defense lawyer to talk a little bit about this. I mean, obviously, it's not every day you see a defendant take the witness stand in his own defense. Were you surprised to see that the defense called Umar Zamir today?
The Crown has the obligation to prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt, and the defense does not have an obligation to give evidence. So in that sense, it's not common, or it's not the usual course for a defendant to take the stand in a criminal trial, although certainly we do see it. In this case, I would have expected it. We heard the evidence of, or rather the summary of evidence in the opening from the defense, and they did say that he was going to testify and that he was going to talk about what was going through his mind at the time of the event. So in that sense, we did expect it, but we're finally here and he's finally giving his version of events to the jury.
Zamir is expected to continue his testimony on Thursday, and we'll have full coverage here at 6 and 11. To read more about the trial, head to our website, cbc.ca/Toronto. Now to a CBC Toronto investigation. A Thornhill man is facing $10 million in lawsuits over an alleged Ponzi scheme. The victims are all members of the GTA's Persian community. They believe the man they entrusted with their savings may have instead used that money to get out of a previous criminal charge. Sarah McMillan explains.
When Narges Razi took out a second mortgage on her home and drained her savings, she thought she was investing in her future.
Now I'm dealing with more trouble and my life is becoming more hectic than it was before.
In 2021, Razi invested about $175,000 through a company called Smart Prime, run by Ali Najumi. It was advertised to her as an asset management company that offers clients guaranteed monthly returns. But after several months, those payments stopped coming.
It started, to just break that promise, and everything was on a delay. He never responded to my texts.
Now, Razi is among 10 investors suing Najumi for fraud, alleging he never invested their money as promised. And it turns out he was never registered with security regulators. Altogether, they allege they've been cheated out of close to $10 million in a Ponzi scheme.
How you can do that and how you don't care about the humanity.
This isn't the first time Najumi has been accused of fraud. In 2019, he was charged by Toronto police for allegedly defrauding an investor of close to $400,000 US through a different company. Now, those charges were ultimately dropped in early 2022 after Najumi paid restitution to the victim. But there are questions about where that restitution money came from, with investors alleging in their lawsuits it was likely their money. Fraud recovery lawyer Norman Groot represented the plaintiff in the 2019 case and is representing most of the current plaintiffs as well. He says both his former client and his office raised concerns about the source of the money at the time. Court documents show some of the new alleged victims provided funds to Najumi just days before he paid the restitution.
Had Mr. Najumi been convicted in the first case, it's possible the second round of frauds may not have happened.
We requested an interview with Najumi. His lawyer declined on his behalf. But in his statements of defense for the lawsuits, Najumi denies all the allegations against him and claims the investor funds were loans that aren't yet due to be paid back. The plaintiffs we spoke with are all part of the Persian community and knew Najumi socially or were introduced by friends. They recall meetings at his office and impressive presentations, which convinced them they were making a smart investment. Mariam Alavinasa says she feels Najumi took advantage of the fact that she was new to the country.
I regret myself that I trust the system because I was thinking that Canada has a rule.
We asked the Ministry of the Attorney General what steps are taken to verify the source of funds used for restitution. A spokesperson said they would not comment since the case is before the courts. Sarah McMillan, CBC News, Toronto.
Food critics can definitely influence where people dine, giving restaurants a boost or a bust based on their reviews. In the case of Keith Lee, a TikTok star with a massive following, the effect is so big, it's been running restaurants out of stock. And this week, the Detroit-raised, Las Vegas-based Lee ventured to our great city to do some taste testing. Patrick Swadden joins us now outside one of the spots he visited. And Patrick, you've been on Keith Lee's trail all evening. What did you learn?
Well, Kelda, what I did learn is that this guy has an absolutely gigantic following. I mean, just millions of followers. And they do actually really listen to him. I mean, everywhere this guy goes gets a huge boost in business, including, if you look behind me, you can see Afro's Pizza here. It's kind of a Detroit-style pizza in downtown Toronto. And now it's actually past their closing time, and it's still packed in there right now. So I'm going to tell you, Kelda, as we were doing the chase today, there was some eating on the job, but when we weren't stuffing our faces, we were learning about the Keith Lee effect.
You ask me, I feel like this is going to be one of our most interesting food tours yet, by far.
People have been begging mixed martial artist turned food critic Keith Lee to visit Toronto and bring his 16 million followers with him. And the TikTok star did not disappoint, dropping by 4 GTA restaurants over the last few days.
We found out when everybody did, when we saw the video was uploaded, and it was insane. It went viral, and we couldn't be more excited.
Ibrahim Alameri says Sumac, an Iraqi shawarma place in Scarborough, is usually busy. But after Keith Lee's visit on Saturday,
That's good. That's real good, actually.
It's really busy. And I mean really busy.
Ever since he came by, the wait time is double.
But still worth it, he says, if you're craving a traditional veal shawarma with homemade wrap, or maybe you want a Korean sponge toffee latte from Biscuits to Baskets in Ajax.
That's unique.
Take the top off. So
I don't even know how to describe it. It's real good.
It's a really noticeable. The Keith effect is a real thing for sure.
After Lee visited Biscuits on Friday, you might have to get in line.
People are just calling us left and right. We thought we had plenty Sunday, and we sold out of it so quick.
So, why the boost in biz?
I think he's probably the most influential food person right now on social media because he approaches food from a very organic point where like he goes to places, pays for his food, and then does this thing in the car where he like does selfies and he reviews the food and he has a scale.
9 out of 10. It's just a waffle at the end of the day, but the attention to detail is making this really high for me.
And that means expect Brunch Spot's Sister & Co. on Dundas Street to be packed for the next few weeks.
Someone like Keith Lee has a massive influence where like they see something and they're like, I want to experience what he experienced. I want to eat that thing.
But he doesn't just eat.
We want to leave with $3,000
So after he was done tipping that, he then sent another tip on top of that to also pay for the night's pizza for the rest of the guests that came through here. So anyone that came by, they were able to get a free pizza for the next 3 hours after he left. So from 8 till 11, we were just giving away pizzas.
Best says that they had to close down on Monday to restock.
And that way, when we come into Tuesday, we can go full strength and keep it rolling.
And rolling they still are, Kelda, as you can tell from what's going on behind me. I mean, just after a few mouthfuls of some of the food that we got to experience tonight, you could really kind of start to understand why Keith Lee picked some of the places that he did in Toronto. I mean, I'm not much of a foodie myself, but my mouth was just watering all night tonight. Now, we don't know exactly where he's going to go next, but I'm sure whichever restaurant he does pick is going to get that Keith Lee bump. Kelda?
Okay, that has made me very, very hungry. Thank you so much, Patrick. That's our Patrick Swadden live for us tonight. Welcome back. The city of Vaughan is cracking down on car rallies. New bylaws are being introduced that will see hefty fines for participants and spectators at any unsanctioned car rally. Chris Glover has those details.
You're probably looking more closer to 400 or 500 vehicles here.
York Regional Police chopper footage of car rallies that police have been saying for years are illegal and dangerous.
There too. We've got pedestrians now rocking the car and they're doing a bit of a burnout here.
Thousands of people out there. And heaven forbid somebody gets struck by a vehicle and we end up in a situation where we have a fatal incident. That's why this is a significant public safety issue.
The police chief says his officers can respond, but at a cost.
We are pulling resources away from where we might need them most. If our chopper is involved in managing a car rally, if we have a carjacking over here, our chopper's not available. That has an impact on how we respond to all of these calls.
So today, he, along with the mayor of Vaughan and members of council, announced new powers to crack down.
Your free ride is over. You are not welcome here. Your behavior is not welcome here.
New changes in the city to the noise bylaw and the special events bylaw. A major change, even spectators and vehicle owners not part of the dangerous action can face penalties.
Whether you're not even physically there, but a vehicle that you own is actually at the car rally, you potentially could face serious monetary penalties.
Penalties now range from $500 for spectating all the way up to $10,000 for those involved. The police chief says it's been an escalating problem. Since 2001, there have been more than 500 car rallies in York Region, more than 60% of them in Vaughan. Like one in this parking lot near Weston Road and Highway 7 just last month, an unauthorized car rally with more than 100 people where a teen girl was shot but survived.
So, we're trying to get ahead of that, and these tools and these resources and new laws or bylaws that we stand up to actually shut them down in the first place go a significant way to actually moving them right out of our region.
The chief wants the new powers across the region.
They kind of cracked down on this a number of years ago, and so our incidents have gone down quite significantly. There isn't as much street racing.
But the mayor of Markham says the situation in his city has improved, and he wants to look at the details of the bylaws before promising any changes, especially around the spectator issue.
I know residents in our city and certainly in many other municipalities, they always expect us to have that magic wand. And most of the time, some of these aspects of certain bylaws are more challenging in the courts than they may seem on the surface. So certainly open to looking at it all.
But for now, York Regional Police is satisfied starting with Vaughan to try to get the upper hand in the city where they face the most car rallies. Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
Toronto Police and Toronto Crime Stoppers are partnering to launch a campaign to combat hate crime. They say there's been an unprecedented number of reported hate-related incidents since the start of the Israel-Hamas war. Del Manukduk has more.
For months, Toronto has seen an alarming increase in reported hate crimes ranging from graffiti to this alleged arson at a local Jewish deli in January.
Since October the 7th, service members have attended approximately 941 hate crime calls for service, and there have been 216 hate crime occurrences, resulting in 72 arrests and 182 charges
On average, Toronto police are fielding 155 hate crime calls for service every month.
Of the reported hate crimes so far in 2024, over half are anti-Semitic.
Those are followed next by reported hate crimes targeting the 2S LGBTQ+ community and then anti-Black occurrences.
It's hate-motivated attack that is meant to instill fear into a community that knows what it's like to be persecuted, that knows the fear of walking down a street holding your partner's hand, never quite sure if you're going to be safe.
Anti-Muslim, anti-Arab, and anti-Palestinian hate crimes are grouped together. Police are concerned about underreporting since there's only been 5 reported hate crimes of Islamophobia in 2024 so far.
There may be, we think, some language barriers that may be in place, and also a feeling of perhaps mistrust in the justice system or the police. There's also a misunderstanding of what constitutes a hate crime.
We're in a very diverse city like Toronto. I don't think that language barriers should be a reason for why the Toronto police is having an issue with receiving reports.
The anti-crime awareness campaign launched today wants people to come forward even if they're unsure.
At the end of the day, it may not be a hate speech or a hate crime, but oftentimes it is a criminal offense.
B'nai B'rith Canada has its own 24/7 hotline and app to report hate crimes.
A lot of what we receive, though, is what gets classified as awful but lawful.
That would include things like Jewish people being called derogatory slurs online.
And that might not be considered under Canada's current definition of anti-Semitic hate speech to be a crime, but we would consider that to be an anti-Semitic incident because a Jewish person is being targeted.
Today they were sent something more extreme, photos in Cedarvale Park appealing for the release of the 2 youngest remaining hostages held by Hamas, defaced with swastikas.
This is a country that is built on tolerance and strong morals and values, and I encourage every Canadian at this moment to take a deep breath and to remind themselves what makes this country such a special place and to be kind to their neighbors.
Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
Parts of High Park were set on fire today. The controlled burn carried out by the city as part of its plan to protect the rare black oak savanna ecosystem. Ali Chiasson attended a traditional ceremony ahead of the burn.
This is not an emergency. The fire has been deliberately set. It crawls along the forest floor at High Park, burning dead leaves and brush, enriching the soil so plants can thrive. This is High Park's traditional prescribed burn.
Long time ago, our people did these sacred burns on the territory so that we could clear up the land. Which was meaning to clean the land.
5 different sites in High Park will be set ablaze in areas called black oak savannas. These are ecosystems that thrive on burnt plant matter.
A long time ago, we used to do it so that it would encourage new life to form.
We have the black oak trees in the canopy, and we have a lot of herbaceous plant material at the ground level.
There is some catching up to do. They didn't burn for 3 years at High Park during the pandemic, so invasive plants have had a lot of time to grow, but not anymore. The conditions have to be perfect to do this. It can't be too dry or too windy. They want the fire to progress at a walking pace.
You don't want it really dry, but you need a certain moisture content in the ground. But you need things to be dry enough so that the fire spreads from the outside in. It's a great opportunity to teach people not only about High Park and the ecosystem that we have here and how special it is, but it's also a good way for people to learn about the Indigenous connection to the land.
To the trees that are here, to the animals that are here, to the medicines that are here, to the waters that are here. They all belong to all of us. We all have a responsibility in those 4 directions to take care of the fire, the earth, the wind, and the air.
Spring hasn't really sprung in Toronto until the smoke emanates from High Park. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
You are looking at a live shot of Toronto, partly cloudy tonight after a beautiful day, currently sitting at 13 degrees. Meteorologist Colette Kennedy joins us now with a look at your forecast. And Colette, a light jean jacket was all I needed today. Such a beautiful spring day.
Yeah, Kelda, so much of the day just gorgeous around the GTA, around much of southwestern Ontario. But then in the afternoon, some of those stronger storms started bubbling up north of us, especially coming in on the eastern shores of Georgian Bay. And then it all spread out a little bit more, right? But we will actually find this drying out, and we'll be going back to some quieter conditions, setting us up for a beautiful sunny day on Wednesday. And I find that sometimes helps with hump day when you have some nice weather to help get you through. Wet weather, though, comes in on Thursday. I don't just mean some showers, but more times some soaking rains in there, lingering into Friday. And as well, we'll have some breezy conditions then. So another reason to kind of enjoy the fine weather coming our way for tomorrow. Look at these daytime highs today. Lots of 20s making their way on the board, 20 and a little more than that. Sarnia at 24, 22 for London and Chatham-Kent. St. Catharines at 25, and all right, we'll even take some of the high teens, 18, not so bad, is it, Kingston and Toronto. And here you go, overnight tonight, 6 degrees, we get into those clearing skies. That's the setup then to give us the sunshine tomorrow. Now, winds will be out of the west in the afternoon, up to 20, even 30 kilometers an hour, so a little bit of a breeze. You'll feel it more maybe towards the lakeshore, just slightly cooler, but a nice day there and in Windsor with clear skies overnight tonight, 8 for the low, 19 degrees tomorrow. Most of the day looking good, but there will be some increasing cloudiness towards the late afternoon. And then that next system that I was talking about for Thursday, well, it's going to start to make an appearance actually in southwestern Ontario as we get towards Wednesday through the overnight. So this is the one we've been dealing with, the active weather along that cold front. As that continues to clear into eastern Ontario, it sweeps that active weather away with it, or any remnant showers left over, clears our skies out for tomorrow, a little breezy behind it. And then this is that next system that moves in. And even by Thursday morning, we'll have the first batch making its way along the north shore of Lake Ontario, including into Toronto, maybe a bit of a break, and then more rain to come. Overnight temperatures, looking at some of the areas where you'll likely hold, might be close, but double digits, like St. Catharines and towards Peterborough as well. There you go. After Wednesday, the rain brings that temperature down on Thursday, so a high of just 14. Keeping mild overnight temperatures, though. Breezy on Friday, still wet. And yes, I do have to put a chance of showers into the weekend, but the sun will be coming back as well, Kelda.
Good to hear. Thanks so much, Colette. And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night, everyone.